you have just outlined a plan that people could use over and over. And as you were talking, I was recalling some fantastic mentors I had along my career. And they challenged me to be the best, and they challenged me to work with other folks who had the skills I desired to have. So thank you for making me be consciously present of some of the fabulous mentors I had who suggested these very things.
And knowing your background, I think it's evident that people have challenged you along the way. And I think we can't sit in our careers, in our lives, in a place and say, I'm absolutely the best I will ever be, because you begin to die at that moment. And there are many people, I love to applaud successes. And when we reached a success at PMI, or I reached a success in one of my other associations, I was the first to come up and say it, and say, now that you've gotten there, think about what you can do differently going forward. You now have a new accomplishment that you didn't have a year ago. You can be greater. You can step forward. You can push yourself to a level that you were never at before, and the only person that's going to prohibit you from doing that is yourself.
And again, you helped me recall one of my mentors, after a significant accomplishment, promotion, he said, how does it feel? And it was incredible. He said, great, take a minute to enjoy it. And now we've got work to do.
Little happy dance and get on with it.
Let's move on.
That's right. That's
absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm interested in your perspective. You have traveled and worked with government leaders, business leaders in over 60 countries. That's pretty notable, just for the record. I would like to have your Miles bank account or access to it. So we'll talk about that later. In your travels, you've had exposure to a global perspective. How is that global perspective changing the way project management is viewed?
Well, my perspective is, throughout the world, project management, it's not the term project management, it's the focus on results and change. Okay. If you go into India, or you go into China, or you go into Vietnam, there's a significant focus on how do we bring great change about so that the people can prosper. You can't do that unless you have a focus on project management and think in terms of projects. The China 5-year plan is filled with project goals which are held accountable all the way down through the country. Wow. Singapore is the same way. I think project management has come of age because governments and organizations are recognizing that there's high visibility to failures. People are becoming less and less tolerant of failure. And in the case of for-profit organizations, their value proposition is changing and becoming a shared value with the community. So it's about results and about keeping your promises to the people. So when we make a promise to people through a value proposition, it's a personal promise. You have to keep it.
You're making a commitment.
It's a result. Yeah. It's not to be feared. Results are important and critical. Right. And the way to do that is to learn how to take that, whether it's strategic change or tactical change. It is a measure of facilitating value creation, and you have to keep the end in mind from the beginning. It's almost counterintuitive, but you better have a sense of what you're trying to accomplish, and then rally the resources to bring us to that end.
Okay. Do you see any specific additional skills as companies are doing mergers and acquisitions, becoming multinational and global in the nature of the work, and project managers are faced with managing and dealing with teams and stakeholders in many countries and cultures? Specific additional skills that our current project managers may need to focus on and take on, and that learning, always learn. What would you charge them to learn?
Well, I think we heard here, at this Project Zone event, for example, we heard a lot about the global supply chain.
Yes.
The global supply chain is challenging because you have multiple cultures, and the multiple cultures interpret things in different ways. And when we're building a very complex product, such as an aircraft or a space probe or even a cell phone, that cuts across boundaries. He who manages and owns the supply chain determines the ethics and environmental responsibility of that product development, from creation to retirement. So the value chain lies in the hands of the group or the organization that has it. So if we create a computer and there's 40 countries involved in that computer, if HP's logo is on there, or Mattel is producing a toy and Mattel's product logo is on there, then they are the owner of the supply chain, and their culture has to be employed directly through it. If you're the project manager, you have to know that you have to create the culture, the shared value all the way through. It means environmental, ethical supply chains. That's not an issue of yesterday, that's an issue of today.
Right.
Measuring the social and environmental involvement of every supplier in the chain. So I think that's critical, really understanding it. The second issue is the dynamics of the world. Risk management cannot be a discrete engagement, a discrete activity with a beginning and an end. Risk management is about vigilance, about awareness, and then building the capacity for change within the organization. So if we're looking today, we've got rioting throughout the Middle East. It's affecting the price of oil. We don't know what's going to happen. Those companies that have supplies being created in all of those countries, what does that mean for the global marketplace? The fact that there was a tsunami in Japan has affected the just-in-time manufacturing of the Toyota suppliers to factories all over the world. People's jobs are at stake. So what do? Was that on our risk register? No.
Unknown.
It's unknown.
Yeah.
So it's about dealing with uncertainty and looking at risk management as a dynamic vigilance tool. And I think those two things about seeing it. The last thing is obviously the impact over the next 20 to 40 years that our growth in population is going to have on the planet, on the supply of water, on the supply of food and energy. It's going to affect everything. And the more that organizations move to shared values with communities, the more project managers have to understand the impact of their product on society or their project on society. And is there a solution that will be less taxing to the earth, the planet, society in the coming years?
So it sounds like the role and the qualities a project manager brings to the table are going to change significantly.
Yep.
It sounds like there's a lot of threads of global awareness on many levels, not just about my project or my corporate culture, right? The tentacles go far-reaching, much farther reaching than just that. With that in mind, and the leadership skills that will be required by these project managers, they won't be just leading small teams. They'll be leading and directing and influencing the larger organization, it sounds like.
Well, they will. And I think even the concept of a team, leading a virtual team that you never meet,
right,
that's frightening. Right. That can be very frightening. How do you motivate people that you've never met?
Different set of skills required.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, the project manager can't be passive about anything that they do. They have to be aggressive and proactive and understand how to moderate that proactivity so it doesn't offend and create political problems for them within the organization. As they become more of an active participant, say, in the portfolio of change for the organization, they have to almost demand better communication and understanding about how their products and services and their services are being utilized and how is it connected to the value of the organization and the vision.
Right.
So it's almost like saying, we complain about project sponsors. I don't have a project sponsor that gives me the support I need. That's unacceptable in the future. You go find that project sponsor. You work that project sponsor in a way, help them appreciate what you're doing, and at the same time, find out if that project that you're working on is crucial to the organization. And if it's not, begin to plan your next move.
Absolutely.
But to me, that's what it's about. Being zero tolerance for lack of communication, lack of positioning. You have to be, you cannot be passive, you cannot be passive aggressive, you must be aggressive about it, but use human skills to protect you and protect the organization and the relationships that you build.
Okay, so with all this in mind, the global landscape, the project management role changing, career enhancement opportunities, as a last word to our colleagues here in Budapest, what would you like to imbue and advise, encourage them to look at? You said in the next 40 years in your presentation things will change drastically, to really focus on. These are things that you're trusting this group of people to make happen for us.
Well, it was interesting. I was talking to Mahaya about his daughter. His daughter is only 3 months old, and I suggested to him that what I'm trying to say is that 40 years from now, when his daughter is standing there holding her daughter in her hands, what in fact would he want to make sure his legacy would be for her? Mm-hmm. And so for me going forward, it means project managers who are rigorous about the environment, who are rigorous about understanding all of the environmental issues and all of the social issues that are shaping the world around them. Because organizations are going through transformation, and it's about shared value with the community now. So it's incumbent upon that project manager over the next 40 years to recognize that their work on a daily basis shapes the environment that we're going to be in. Great. It's not about creating a cell phone, it's not about creating a car, it's about impacting the world going forward.
So holistic project management is...
Vigilance and holistic project management.
Thank you so much, Greg, for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much.